is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get to in the world of volleyball, such as the NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I Tournament has reached its Final Four, and every one-seed advanced. Louisville, Nebraska, Pitt, and Penn State all advanced, meaning there are no Cinderellas. Who will be the one, no pun intended, to come out on top and win the national championship? Also, how about Lynn outlasting San Francisco State for their first national championship in NCAA Women's Volleyball Division II? And how about Indiana Weiselin repeating as national champions in NAIA women's volleyball, taking down Bellevue in a really fine-set match that saw them have a little bit of comeback magic. And Arizona and Bowling Green will be locking horns in the NIBC Women's Volleyball Championship tomorrow. So hand me a volleyball, set the net. Remember that tomorrow action here on Set Point. It's Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your feed for all their sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday evening, Monday afternoon, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made it to episode 277 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube because we have surpassed 300 followers. We're trying to get to at least 400 by the end of the year, if not by the end of January of next year. And with your help, we can make it happen. Also, make sure to follow iSports Radio on several different podcast platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, GeoSavin, Podchaser, Podcast Addict. The list goes on and on. And make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can cop all sorts of t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, especially for the winter. You'll need that. And lots more iSports Radio swag. And also make sure to check out our website for our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, and much more. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Before we get on into the volleyball action, we need to give a shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. So without any further delay, let's get on in to our sponsors.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. We greatly appreciate them for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And also make sure to check out our website, just like I said before. Check out all of our shows dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point and much more. And the way you can follow me on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie. That's where I'm mainly active. And also on Instagram at set_point.iesr. That's where most of my interviews are going to go. The full ones, especially. You can follow me personally on X as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. Without any further delay, let us get on into the NCAA women's volleyball action. So we got to recap the regional finals just because, well, that was the big thing that happened this past weekend. So in case you unfortunately were asleep after or during the Nebraska-Dayton game, I actually went live with an extra episode of Set Point Extra Points, which is something I like to do. It's something I'm trying to get Set Point Extra Points to, hold on, I'm messing up my camera. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, I did a quick episode of Set Point Extra Points just to recap the regional semifinals and kind of preview the regional finals. So definitely check that out. If you did check it out or you did watch, then I appreciate you. But for those that didn't, it's on the IE Sports Radio YouTube page. So there we go. So I don't need to recap the regional semifinals, but long story short, Oregon pushed Pitt to the brink, but Pitt outlasted Oregon. Kentucky beat Missouri. Stanford took down Florida, which I think was a very good matchup right there, as well as Pitt, Oregon. I think those two are the best regional semifinals. And then you had Louisville sweeping Purdue. Then you had Penn State taking down Marquette in 4. Creighton dethroning the back-to-back champion Texas in 4, which, again, I'm sorry to all Creighton fans. I didn't mean to pick against y'all, so don't think of it personally. And then we also had Nebraska taking down Dayton in 4, which that was when I went live. And then we had Wisconsin outlasting Texas A&M in 5. All right, so yeah, that was that quick little recap right there. Now for the regional finals. All right, so when the first one was, we're just going to go down in chronological order. Yeah, chronological order. So Pitt took on Kentucky. All right, so this matchup was a very fun matchup. I thought this was kind of going to be a lock in my opinion, but honestly, Pitt, Kentucky, these two are really good. I mean, they're the programs that deserve a lot of love, and that deserve the fandom of like most fans, most volleyball fans. But here's how the match played out. So first set, it was fairly close. This was the Battle of the Royal Blues, and in my opinion, I think this could have gone either way. Pitt was pretty much strong throughout most of the set. They never really trailed. They never really lost control, as they never trailed in any part of the set, even in the early stages. So Pitt took that 25-22, but they couldn't really shake off Kentucky. Pitt led 23-20, and then Kentucky rattled off 2 in a row to get within 1. There was a hitting error, but then Kentucky unfortunately just could not stop Olivia Babcock. So first set went to Pitt. Second set, much better start for Kentucky, as they went on a 6-1 run to start the set. Well, 5-0 run to start the set. Then it eventually ballooned to being 6-1. But then Pitt was able to score the next few points, get to within 1 at 6-5. But Kentucky was still establishing their offense. They went up 22-16. And at that point, I was thinking, okay, well, we now got ourselves a battle, right? Wrong. Eventually, Pitt rattled off 7 straight points, which was eventually capped off by hitting error from Kentucky. And suddenly, it was 23-22 in favor of Pitt. Kentucky was able to tie it up with a block. So suddenly, it was 23-23. But then a hitting error from Kentucky and a service ace from Pitt was able to give Pitt the second set 25-23. That was the turning point right there for Pitt. Making that massive comeback was crucial. And oh man, if there was ever a set for Pitt to not lose, if there was ever a set for Kentucky to not lose, that was the set. Like, honestly, I feel bad for Kentucky. It's like, but against a team like Pitt, you cannot be giving them freebies and spotting them points. So, in my opinion, I think that was the turning point right there. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So, unfortunately, that momentum carried over into the third set, where Pitt just started off stronger. They never trailed. Except for, no, they didn't. They didn't trail, and unfortunately for Kentucky, that was pretty much the end of their season. The lead pretty much got out of hand when Pitt went up 22-16. 17-12. 17-12 was the real turning point, or not the real turning point, the real pull away from Pitt, as they eventually wound up winning the third set 25-17, eventually sweeping Kentucky. And Kentucky had a fantastic season. I feel horrible that they got in this little predicament, but Kentucky was eventually going to have to play a ringer, whether it was on the upper left bracket, the lower left bracket, the upper right bracket, or the lower right bracket. But they were going to have to play a contender, and unfortunately for Kentucky, they just ran out of steam. Brooklyn DeLay led Kentucky with 22 kills. She was the only player in double digits in kills, as she had, I'm looking at the numbers. She had over half of the kills that Kentucky had. Yikes. If you're Kentucky, you really wish you had a Reagan Rutherford-like player. But Brooklyn DeLay is only a sophomore. She really stepped up, and she was the reason why that team was in those first 2 sets. Eleanor Bevan had 11 digs. Emma Grome had 37 assists. For Pitt, they were led by Olivia Babcock, who had 13 kills. Bree Kelly had 8 kills. That was a nice little pleasant surprise, seeing a middle step up for Kentucky. It wasn't just Valeria Vasquez-Gomez or Tori Stafford or Olivia Babcock just being the 3-headed monster. You had Bree Kelly also stepping up in the middle. And that's going to be the key for success. If Pitt wants to win the national championship. Get the middle involved. But all in all, it was just a tough end for Kentucky, but they had a fantastic season, and I think for Kentucky, they'll be back on the big stage so long as Brooklyn DeLay doesn't go anywhere. I really wish they could have. I wish they could have kept Reagan Rutherford, but it is what it is, and them's the breaks, unfortunately. Next up, we had this little national regional final. We had Stanford versus Louisville. This was basically round 3 between the two ACC foes, as this was definitely the match of the day right here. This was definitely a fun little matchup right here. So early on, Louisville actually went up 10-5, I'm sorry. Yeah, Louisville went up 10-5. No, Stanford went up 10-3 and whatnot. And then Louisville was trying to play catch up. Stanford was the one that went up early, and Louisville was literally just trying to catch up here and there and everywhere. They did. I'll give them a lot of credit. They did their best to try to keep up in that first set, and they got closer at 24-22, but Sammy Francis just put down the kill in the middle, and suddenly Stanford won the first set 25-22. But then second set was where Louisville had that big, massive, great start to the set. As they went 11-3, that just seemed like it was too much to handle for Stanford's prowess, as the lead eventually ballooned up to 21-10. It was that one-sided, as Louisville took that set 25-14. That was the Louisville that everyone was expecting, because KFC Yum Center expected the Louisville that wanted to host the regional final, or not regional final, the national semifinals and national championship, not the Louisville that got beat by Stanford. So the third set was pretty competitive for the most part, but Louisville eventually started to pull away a little bit. But they were up 15-12 at the halfway mark, quote unquote. But Stanford was very resilient. They tied it up at 16-16, and it was basically back and forth action until Louisville went up 23-21. Stanford did have a set point by rattling off 3 straight points with an error from Louisville, a block by Lizzie Andrew and Jordan Harvey, and a Aaliyah Rubin kill. But unfortunately for them, this was the turning point right here. Louisville eventually saved 1 set point. Stanford got another one. Louisville saved that one. And then Aaliyah Rubin, unfortunately, had a hitting error, which came at such a bad time for Stanford. And that was pretty much the turning point. And Louisville just took the third set 28-26. Yeah, Louisville dodged 2 set points. And although they needed 3 of their own, eventually Louisville took that set. And that was what really got the KFC Yum Center rocking and rolling. So fourth set, Louisville got off to another strong start. They led 10-6 in the first set. Eventually they led 14-10. And Louisville was just doing Louisville things. Eventually they were not going to let go of this lead, as Stanford got no closer than 5 points or 4 points. And eventually Cara Cressy just closed the match off with a kill, giving Louisville the fourth set 25-20 and the match. So for me, Louisville this was a whole different Louisville team. This was a Louisville team that was just strong all around. I thought they played a good, clean match following the first set. The second set was what I think really set the tone for Louisville. And then the third set, that was a big turning point right there, because that sucked up all the momentum from Stanford. So Stanford was led by Aaliyah Rubin, who had 14 kills. Ipar Kurt had 13 kills. Sammy Francis, 10 kills. Cami Minor had 46 assists to go along with 4 digs. This was her last game, and unfortunately that she saw herself and her team lose in the regional finals for the second straight year. And it sucks, because Stanford is a good team, but sadly Stanford just did not have the horsepower to keep up with Louisville. And then for Louisville, they were led by Anna DeBeer, who had 15 kills. Charity Looper had 13 kills. Sophia Maldonado Diaz had 12 kills, and then Cara Cressy had 8 kills. This was a very efficient offense, in my opinion, for the Cardinals. I thought they were very efficient and clean. They ran their 6-2 offense fairly nice. Ellie Glock and Nayelis Cabello had, or Nayelis Niles Cabello had 29 and 19 assists respectively. So all in all for Louisville, that was a very nice win on their behalf. I thought they just played some darn good volleyball, and that was what paved the way to win. And next up, we have the Nebraska versus Wisconsin regional final. And long story short, the first set was what really swung the momentum in the way of Nebraska. So for Nebraska, this was the third meeting between these two teams, and this one did not disappoint as Nebraska, they went up, they found themselves down 11-7 at one point, and I was thinking, okay, well, Wisconsin, I think, is finally going to start to play. This what took place at the Bob Devaney Center, which Nebraska thrives in. It's been a hot minute since Nebraska has lost an NCAA tournament match at the Bob, but Nebraska was starting to find its footing. They eventually tied it up at 14-14, then led 16-14, and suddenly it was just a game of cat and mouse until it was tied 16-16. Nebraska went on a 5-0 run, and then that was when, at that point, I was thinking, Wisconsin's in trouble. Eventually, Nebraska went up 23-19, but to the credit of Wisconsin, they did not give up. They were down 24-21, but rattled off 3 straight points to tie it up. But unfortunately for Wisconsin, they had a service error, and then Taylor Landfair had a kill to give Nebraska the first set 26-24. And that was the turning point right there. That was the momentum boost that Wisconsin would have needed. If they had taken that first set, it might have been a whole different feel because the Bob was rocking. So Nebraska went up 8-2 in set number 2, and eventually it just ballooned to double digits. Did it? No, it didn't. It did not. So it nearly ballooned up to double digits, but it went up to as many as 9. Eventually, Nebraska was not letting this lead go. They took the second set 25-17, and suddenly Wisconsin was in the worst position ever, down 0-2 to a team that made the semifinal or that made the national championship last year. And on the road, that was just the worst position to be in if you're Wisconsin, especially a young Wisconsin team, which is starting a freshman setter. But Wisconsin, to their credit, they came out a little bit fast in set number 3. They went up 11-8, and then eventually it ballooned up to 15-11. So it was looking like Wisconsin was going to show some life. And then eventually Nebraska tied it up at 15-15. And suddenly it was just all a matter of Nebraska just snatching that lead and just hanging on to that momentum. Eventually they got the lead at 17-16 by a kill from Harper Murray. And they eventually went up from there. They scored 2 more points. And credit to Wisconsin, they got the lead as close as 1. But unfortunately for Nebraska, or unfortunately for Wisconsin, they just were not letting this lead go. Nebraska was basically in control for the most part. I mean, they didn't blow them out, but it wasn't like set 2, but it just did not. They just weren't letting this lead go. They knew that they needed to close the door on Wisconsin, and they did. They eventually wound up winning the third set 25-21, advancing to the national semifinals. So leading Wisconsin in the loss was Sarah Franklin, who had 11 kills. Julia Orzel and Anna Smrek both had 7 kills. Carter Booth had 6 kills. Charlie Furbringer had 3 service aces and 28 assists to go along with 7 digs. Unfortunately for Wisconsin, it just was not enough as, again, this was a fairly young Wisconsin team. Obviously, their setter, being only a freshman, just did not help matters. But she thrived mostly in this NCAA tournament. She thrived for the most part, and she's only going to get better as time progresses. Meanwhile, for Nebraska, they were led by Taylor Landfair, who had 11 kills. Andy Jackson and Harper Murray both had 9 kills. It's great to see Taylor Landfair making a massive contribution for the Huskers, as well as Andy Jackson and Harper Murray just really stepping up big. Bergen Riley had 26 assists along with 8 digs. And Lexi Rodriguez had 14 digs. She's getting ever so close to being the all-time dig leader at Nebraska, and that's going to be fun times. The all-time dig leader so far is Justine Wong-Orantes, the gold and silver medalist. But Lexi Rodriguez is nipping at the heels of that record. So don't be surprised if Lexi Rodriguez accomplishes that feat this weekend. I think she only needs like one dig or so to surpass Justine Wong-Orantes. But that is that for the regional semifinal recap. So your semifinals are as follows. ACC versus ACC, and then Big Ten versus Big Ten. So no matter what happens, we're going to get an ACC team in the national championship as well as a Big Ten team in the national championship. So Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, you've got I forgot to delete this. That's not the right one. So did I not? So regional finals or national semifinals are as follows. And oh God, I must not have saved this whole thing. No. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that was a complete fail on my part. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, everything just glitched up on me. But okay, national semifinals are as follows. You've got Pitt versus Louisville, and then you've got Nebraska versus Penn State. I'll be giving my predictions on who will win said semifinal and advance to the national championship, and I'll give my pick for the national championship, which you probably already know. But I'm going to keep it a surprise because I want to give my reasons why I picked said team. But that is going to do it for the NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I recap of the regional semifinals and finals. We're actually going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, I'll be recapping the NCAA Division II Women's Volleyball National Championship, and I'll also be recapping the NAI Women's Volleyball National Championship. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax, as well as the Neutral Zone with Adam Cronk and Zach Puplis. All right, so apologies for the random commercial break out of the blue. I had the wrong banners up, which really frustrates me. It's because I try my best to get the best quality for you all and the best of everything. And I guess I had all my banners set up, and then when I was setting up, StreamYard didn't save, which really frustrates me. But I digress. We're just gonna have to go through with it, play on, and honestly, I feel so frustrated, man. I try my hardest with this whole thing. I really do. I really hate how this whole glitch thing happens with StreamYard. I mean, gosh dang it. All right, but let's get on into some NCAA Women's Volleyball Division II action. So, all right, so NCAA Women's Volleyball Division II. This was a very nice matchup right here. So the Division II final was as follows: Lynn versus San Francisco State. And I also recapped this matchup on Set Point Extra Points, so definitely check that out if you weren't able to. But Lynn was able to outlast San Francisco State in 5 sets, which was a thriller right there. That might have, if it weren't for, oh my God, I actually forgot to talk Creighton and Penn State, which I guess I'll circle back the wagons over after this. But yeah, if it wasn't for Penn State Creighton, I would definitely think that this was the best volleyball match in terms of the entire weekend. But yeah, in terms of this matchup, it was Lynn's first national championship, as they actually didn't start off all that great. They actually were down in the first set 12-10. They eventually found themselves down 16-13, but then they tied it up, they were within 1 at 16-15, and they were just playing catch-up throughout most of the way. They eventually tied it up at 21-21 after trailing 21-18. They found themselves behind 22-21, but went on a 4-0 run to give themselves the first set 25-22. That was good resilience right there by Lynn. And then going over to the second set, we had San Francisco State up 13-11 in the set, only for Lynn to take the lead at 14-13. Eventually, San Francisco State retook the lead at 17-16. And they took the lead at 22-20. So suddenly Lynn was in another predicament where they were down late in the set and they needed another big burst. But thankfully for them, they got a 5-0 run. And this is where it really hurts to be San Francisco State. Those runs that they gave up at the end were probably the difference maker. Eventually, Lynn took the set off of a kill from Samantha Wolf, 25-22. And suddenly, Lynn's up 2-0. So what could have been San Francisco State being up 2-0 or maybe tied 1-1, it's now Lynn being up 2-0. And that's a very precarious situation. I mean, not everyone can be Feather River against Fresno City College. And then in the third set, San Francisco State finally got everything together. They led 12-7. They led 18-9 in the set. And eventually the lead ballooned up to double digits. Eventually, San Francisco State took that set 25-16, and then they played on. Then Lynn got off to a little bit of a fast start, but San Francisco State countered as they took the lead at 7-6 after being behind 6-5. Eventually, San Francisco State went up 12-7, and that ballooned up to 19-10. Eventually, San Francisco State was not going to lose this set as they took the set 25-16, advancing to a fifth set. And the fifth set occurred. San Francisco State and Lynn were tied up at 5-5. Eventually, it was 8-7 at the side switch in favor of Lynn after a 2-0 run. That ballooned up to a 3-0 run after a kill from Aline Olegario. Lynn eventually found themselves up 12-9, and it looked like it was over. They eventually found themselves up 13-10, and they had match point at 14-11. This was basically just back and forth as long as Lynn just controlled the lead. They weren't going anywhere. But San Francisco State deserves a lot of credit. They scored the next 2 points with a kill from Katie Parker and Tamaya Wilson. So suddenly, San Francisco State is only up 1. But Lynn was able to shut the door as they got a kill from Maria Cecilia to win the set, the fifth set, 15-13, and winning their first ever national championship. So yeah, that was an instant classic right there in terms of that matchup right there. That was very fun, and honestly, that's what national championships are all about. For San Francisco State, they were led by Tamaya Wilson, who had 21 kills. Anastasia Garcia had 17 kills. Aiden Goodrich and Izzy Izak both had 15 kills. Kim DeBoer had 55 assists. In terms of the dig department, Brianna DeBoer had 23 digs. They also got 19 digs from Kim DeBoer, and Izzy Izak had 14 digs. For Lynn, they had 5 different players with double-digit kills, as they had Samantha Wolf leading the way with 17 kills. Maria Cecilia had 14 kills. Fabia Stanton, 12 kills. Aline Olegario, 11 kills. And then Samantha Blayhut, she had 10 kills. Fabia Stanton also added 25 digs. Isabella Gentile had 27 digs. Wolf had 13 digs. Ula Gorjup had 54 assists to go along with 9 digs. Gentile also had 2 service aces. All in all, it was an amazing NCAA Women's Volleyball Division III match and Division III final. So I thought that was very incredible right there. All right, but now circling back to the regional final when it came to, or the regional final for Division I, because after I talked Wisconsin, I forgot to talk Creighton Penn State. This was the match of the weekend, and this was the best match that you'll be finding. So after Creighton just upset, upset is not the correct word to use. After Creighton dethroned Texas, it was off to facing Penn State, which Penn State had not lost at home all season long. So the first set, Penn State really really socked it to Creighton. Penn State never trailed, and they eventually took the first set 25-15. So you're probably wondering, why am I skimming through this? The lead, Penn State had 2 different runs. They had a 5-0 run after they were up only 11-9, and then they had another 5-0 run after they were up 16-10. And for Penn State, they were not letting this lead go in this set. They wanted to set the tone early. Then the second set, Creighton kind of got their footing. They kind of got their bird legs, per se. They led 12-9 after a hitting error from Penn State. Eventually, they led 14-10, and it was just all a matter of keep away. They were up 17-15, and then used a 6-0 run to go up 23-15. And eventually, Creighton took the second set 25-16. Now the third set. Third set was the big turning point of the match. Creighton went up 22-17, and they actually led by as many as 5, being up 17-12. It was looking like Creighton was going to take the second set. But then Penn State battled back, tied it up at 20-20. Ava Martin got a kill for Creighton. Suddenly, it was 21-20 in favor of Creighton. But then Penn State had a 4-0 run as they capitalized off of a hitting error from Creighton, and then got 3 kills in that run, courtesy of Jess Merzick, who had 2 kills in that run, and then a dump kill from Izzy Stark. Eventually, Merzick gave Penn State the set 25-22, but Creighton wasn't going to take this line down. They never trailed in set number 4. They eventually led 15-11. Penn State wasn't going away that easy. But eventually, Creighton just pulled away as they went up 22-17 after it was 20-17. And eventually Creighton took the fourth set 25-20. But the fifth set was pretty much all Penn State. Penn State, they got off to such a hot start and they never looked back. Creighton did lead 2-1 in the fifth set, but that was pretty much their only lead of said set as Penn State broke a 3-3 tie, went up 6-3, and they eventually went up 9-3 after the side switch, or 1 point after the side switch. Eventually, Penn State went up 12-5, and Penn State just closed the match on a 3-0 run as Taylor Trammell got the kill to send Penn State back to the regional final by taking set 5, 15-7. So I feel bad for Creighton. It sucks that one team had to lose because I have a lot of respect for Kirsten Bernthal Booth as well as Katie Schumacher-Colley. This was basically the I hate to see one team lose this match type of match. As Ava Martin led the way with 17 kills. You got to give it up to Penn State, though. They really slowed down Nora Sis, who only had 8 kills. Elise Getzinger and Jaya Johnson both had 8 kills to go along with Nora Sis's 8 kills. Sis hit 0 in the match, which really sucks. That's the type of match where you just want to flush down the toilet, and that's the worst type of match to have. And Kendra Waite had 4 kills to go along with 36 assists and 9 digs. Sis did have 3 service aces, so she contributed to other points outside of kills, but it wasn't enough. And I feel bad for Creighton just because this was a big senior class. They're losing Kendra Waite and Nora Sis and a bunch of other seniors to graduation. But I'm certain Creighton will be back hopefully soon. It's going to take a while for them to get back onto the big stage. And then for Penn State, they were led by Jess Merzick, who had 20 kills. Caroline Gervasius, if I mispronounced that, I apologize. Caroline Gervasius had 11 kills. She was an unsung hero, in my opinion. She has kind of been that final gear that Penn State needs. Cameron Hanna had 9 kills. You also had 8 kills from Taylor Trammell. Izzy Stark had 41 assists to go along with 11 digs. Gillian Grimes, who surpassed 1,000 digs, she had 17 digs. Ava Falduto had 10 digs as well. So Penn State, I'm happy for them. They've been through quite a bit with Katie Schumacher-Colley and such. They advanced to the national semifinals. Again, it really sucks that Creighton's season did come to an end. But unfortunately, them's the break, sadly. And sadly, that's just how the game goes. And I really hate to see Creighton exit the NCAA tournament because they were the best non-Power 4 school this season. Unfortunately, their senior class, they left their mark, they left their legacy, and I hope they set the bar for next year's class and the year after that, and hopefully for their sake, they're able to get back on the big stage where they can hopefully reach that national championship match. All right, but now here we go. Semifinals, national semifinals. Pitt versus Louisville, Nebraska versus Penn State. All matches will be played at the KFC Yum Center. The semifinals begin at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be giving my predictions on who will win said match and why a little bit later. But for right now, we got to talk some NAI women's volleyball. Again, unfortunately, I hate how my system just glitched out, and sadly, I just lost everything in terms of the banners that I made, and it really just makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because, again, I tried my best to give you all the best content possible, and it really deviates me because now I got to go back and add the banners on a commercial break, but it is what it is. So again, we're just going to play through it, and we're just going to have to keep on keeping on. So yeah, Indiana Wesleyan defended its title with a thrilling 5-set win over Bellevue of Nebraska. So yeah, this was a very, 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 very fun match. So first set for Bellevue. Well, first set for Indiana and Bellevue. Indiana was able to take it 25-22. Bellevue actually led 22-21, but then Indiana Wesleyan, being the talented team that they are, ended the set on a 4-0 run. kind of eerily familiar as the whole San Francisco State versus Lynn match. This was played on Tuesday, by the way, so I really hate that I didn't provide commentary and whatnot and live posts and whatnot, but I digress. But then Indiana Wesleyan, I would say they took their foot off the gas, but Bellevue woke up. They really laid the smackdown on Indiana Wesleyan. Indiana Wesleyan, surprisingly enough, they led 14-12, but then Bellevue, being the talented team that they are, went on a 6-0 run, eventually led 18-14, and they never looked back as they took the said set 25-16 to tie the matchup at 1-1. And then in the third set, there was another big run from Bellevue. This time, Indiana Wesleyan did not lead as Bellevue they dominated the third set. There's nothing more that needs to be said. They took the third set 25-13. The set was pretty much over once Bellevue went up 12-6. Yeah, once they went up 12-6, that's when the set was over. So Bellevue's just one set away from winning a national championship and bringing home the honor and glory to the volleyball state that is Nebraska. But you can't get rid of a champion that easily, as Indiana Wesleyan jumped out to a 9-5 lead. The lead eventually ballooned to 17-10. Bellevue did as they could, try to get the set to as close as 3, but they just could not keep up with Indiana Wesleyan as they took the fourth set 25-18, and suddenly the match is going 5. Then the fifth set occurred, and this might have been the wildest fifth set ever. This match might have rivaled West Texas A&M and Tampa for craziest comeback of the year. So it was 3-3, and then Bellevue goes on a 2-0 run. Suddenly it's 5-3, and eventually Bellevue has the lead at 8-6 at the side switch. But little did Indiana Wesleyan know Bellevue would get hot as they rattled off not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 straight unanswered points to go up 13-6. So 7 straight points. My apologies for my miscalculations. Eventually, Bellevue had match point at 14-8. But to the credit of Indiana Wesleyan, they basically were not going down without a fight. And they scored not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 straight points to tie the matchup at 14-14. But most of those points that Indiana Wesleyan had, they were attack errors. They had one attack error at 14-8, so suddenly it was 14-9. Another attack error, 14-10. Another attack error, 14-11. Another attack error, 14-12. Another attack error, 14-13. Another attack error, 14-13. Bellevue had, in the run that Indiana Wesleyan had, it was pretty much all attacking errors, which was shocking to me. It's like, I don't get it. How did Bellevue have so many attacking errors? Because looking at the box score, it was attacking error, and then after attacking error, after attacking error, after attacking error. It's just baffling. It's like, oh my God. Now maybe some of those were blocks and the box score isn't doing it justice, but I'm just gonna say you're up 14-8. I get it. There's a lot of pressure to close out, but man, Bellevue is gonna want all those points back. Like Bellevue had 6 match points. Six. And those poor athletes, they're going to get haunted by the rest of their athletic career. And I feel bad for them. There's no better way of saying that. I feel bad for them. I hate how Bellevue lost this one. You'd much rather get blown out in that situation than lose after being up 14-8. Because I've seen teams rally back from 14-12 and maybe 14-10, but never down 14-8. Guess there's a first time for everything. Anyway, so for Bellevue, they were led by Eve Fontaine, who had 23 kills. Savannah Berger had 14 kills. As a team, Bellevue hit 217, so not bad for having a bunch of hitting errors or blocks. And then Indiana Wesleyan, they were led by Eva Juldersma, who had 17 kills. Martina DeMarchi had 16 kills. Marissa Malign had 9 kills. Surprisingly enough, Indiana hit 123, but Indiana did have a bunch of blocks. They had 12 blocks as a team, while Bellevue had 10 blocks as a team. In terms of digs, Bellevue had 71 digs compared to Indiana Wiseland's 63. Aces were in favor of Bellevue, who had 9 aces and only 8 service errors, while Wiseland had 4 service aces and 7 service errors. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this wrong. The service errors were Indiana Wiseland 8-4. Indiana Wiseland had 8 service aces to 4 service errors, while Bellevue had 7 service aces to 9 service errors. All right, so yeah, that's kind of where Indiana somewhat won the match, but it was mostly in that 5th set. That 5th set was what really killed Bellevue. You have to feel bad for Bellevue. You also know what could have helped Bellevue is if they won that first set. If they win that first set, they're taking this one in straight sets, and the state of Nebraska will not be sleeping. Even with they would be sleeping, because they would have had the regional semifinals on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. So there you have it. But that is that for the NAI Women's Volleyball National Championship recap. Sorry if it doesn't have the whole national championship recap right there, but again, StreamYard unfortunately glitched out on me, didn't save my progress, which really frustrates me. Gosh dang it, StreamYard. Why you gotta do this to me? Anyway, but that is that for the NAI Women's Volleyball recap right there in terms of the national championship. So we're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got the NIVC preview of their championship, and then we've got the full-on preview for NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I between Pitt, Louisville, and Nebraska, Penn State. Keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back for the last part of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as Sensei Sports with Cale Henderson. Also have to give a shout out to Cale as he and his wife gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and I could not be more happy for Cale. Congratulations to Cale Henderson, my colleague at iSports Radio, for giving birth to a beautiful baby boy, or his wife giving birth to a beautiful baby boy. Also, check out Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Karnick as he's going to be recapping the Chicago Bears game against the Minnesota Vikings as of this recording. And he goes live. He normally goes live right before I go live, but since the Bears are playing on Monday Night Football, he's deciding to switch things up differently. All right, now for the NIVC Women's Volleyball preview. So the preview is as follows: Bowling Green versus Arizona. So as we all know, Arizona is just straight up amazing. I mean, let's be honest. Arizona should have made the NCAA Women's Volleyball Tournament. I feel horrible that they didn't make it. They were most likely the first one out in terms of not making the NCAA Women's Volleyball Tournament. And it sucks because that team had some good pedigree on it. They beat teams like BYU, and they had a top 10 win over Kansas. But unfortunately for them, they fell short, and they kind of took their anger out pretty much on the NIVC. They've only dropped one set through the NIVC, and that was to Northern Colorado in the Fab Four, which was pretty incredible, pretty strong. But now they face a Bowling Green team who is pretty darn good, if you ask me. I kind of overlooked this team, and I feel that this was on me. I should not have overlooked Bowling Green. I think they're definitely a sneaky good team. They're not like the worst team in terms of Power 5. They just get overshadowed just because they're not like, oh no. They just kind of get overshadowed by the fact that that Ohio State is a thing in Ohio as well as Dayton. So you have that right there, but Bowling Green, they managed to make it all the way to the NIVC National Championship, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. So they have a chance to do something really fun, and if they play their cards right, they could be NIVC champions. Now, you're probably thinking, well, NIVC, who cares about that? Well, I care just because it's volleyball, and it's going to be the nice little appetizer for the national semifinals that'll be later this week. But Arizona Bowling Green. So let's take a deep dive on both these teams, shall we? So we'll start off with Bowling Green just because I've kind of already talked a little about Arizona State. But yeah, Bowling Green. This is a pretty darn good team here. They have 25 wins. Obviously, they come from the ever so talented MAC Conference. They unfortunately lost to Western Michigan in the MAC tournament, but they have wins over Binghamton, Wright State, and DePaul, as well as St. John's. The St. John's win was a barn burner. They needed a reverse sweep to win that one, and man, that was big. They won that one on the road, mind you, so nothing easy when it came to this team's success in the NIVC. So in terms of Bowling Green, they're led by Lauren Hovey, who had 432 kills. Mia Tyler has 346 kills. You also have Alexis Matile, who has 249 kills, and then Jessica Andrews has 225 kills. In terms of assists, their ringleader is Amanda Otten, who has 1,136 kills, or 1,136 assists. And then their anchor defensively in terms of digging the ball is Lindsay LaPinta, who has 448 digs. You also got Lauren Hovey, who has 311 digs. So those are some notable numbers right there for for Bowling Green right there. I think those are some pretty strong numbers if you ask me. And the MAC is nothing to sneeze at. The MAC is actually a pretty okay conference if you ask me. It's nothing that's going to be riding home about like the Big Ten or the ACC or whatnot, but it's a very underrated conference. Then you got Arizona, which is led by Jordan Wilson, who has 428 kills. Jalen Hodge has 411 kills. You also got Carly Cisneros, who has 299 kills. Their quarterback, quote unquote, is Avery Scogins, who has 1,130 assists. You have also got Carly Cisneros leading the dig department with 363 digs. Then you've got Scogins in second in digs with 284. In terms of blocking, that department is led by Kiara Roby, who has 90 blocks altogether. Hodge has 74 blocks. And I guess I should make note of Bowling Green's blocks and their block leader. Their block leader is actually Jessica Andrews, who has 1,555 kills. Or I'm sorry, she has 155 kills. God. Jessica Andrews has 155 blocks to lead said Bowling Green team in that department. So all in all, for Bowling Green and Arizona, this is going to be shaping up to be a big match. Arizona is hosting the NIVC, which I think is pretty nice. They've earned that right. But look, I like the matchup for Arizona. I just think Arizona is going to be winning this one. They've been battle tested all year in terms of the Big 12. Again, those wins over Kansas and BYU were nothing to sneeze at. Let's take a look at some of Bowling Green's wins. They beat Chicago State, UMBC, Wright State, which they actually beat in the NIVC, which is pretty cool. They beat Brown DePaul, which they also beat in the NIVC. They beat Ball State twice, pretty solid right there. They beat Western Michigan twice. Unfortunately, they just couldn't beat them when it mattered most. They beat Buffalo. They beat Buffalo once. They beat Miami of Ohio and whatnot, and so on and so forth. They beat Ohio twice, and then unfortunately they lost to Western Michigan, which was such a bummer of a loss right there for Bowling Green. So road-wise, Bowling Green's not too bad of a road team. They're actually 13-2. My only thing is, can they win in a hostile environment that is Arizona? That's my big issue. Well, Arizona is 13-4, and like I said, I've mentioned most of their big-time wins. They beat BYU early in the season, or early in Big 12 conference play. They beat Kansas, which I thought was a pretty darn good win. I think this team, look, I hate to pick against Bowling Green, but I just got to go with Arizona. Arizona wants redemption, and dating back to the win over Kansas, they have won 10 straight matches. So yeah, they ended the season on a 7-match win streak, and then only just to find out that they were basically on the outside looking in. They were the first one on the outside looking in. They were the first one to head down to McDonald's, not in the drive-thru, only to find out that it's closed. So there you have it right there. I just think Arizona's going to win, and Arizona has my pick for the NIVC championship. I wish we could have filled out a bracket. I wish the people at the NIVC could have told me that they were doing a bracket challenge, and I would have liked to have joined, but it is what it is. All right, now for my picks for the NCAA Women's Volleyball National Semifinals and the championship. All right, so Pitt versus Louisville. Look, Louisville is good. They're hosting. That's going to be so tough for Pitt to contend with, but Pitt has been battle-tested. Pitt knows how to play at the KFC Yum Center. Pitt has been working so hard for this. They've made it to the national semifinals for the past 4 years. They've never, ever, ever made a national championship. My thing is, for Pitt, they just have to play smart. And then Louisville, if they play their brand of volleyball, if they don't allow Anna DeBeer to just carry the team, if they can get like other help from PK Kong and Cara Cressy and so on and so forth, I think Louisville can win this one. But I've got Pitt winning it. I am for sure deadlocked on Pitt. If we're another team that were facing Louisville, I would pick Louisville in a heartbeat. But for now, I got Pitt winning this one. And then Nebraska versus Penn State. Man, this is such a tough one. look, Penn State has had a fantastic season. There's no doubt in my mind Penn State deserves to be here. There's no doubt in my mind they deserve to beat said Nebraska team before the regular season ended. And the fact that they are just balling out for their head coach, who is battling stage 2 breast cancer, is flat out amazing. Now, Nebraska, on the other hand, this is kind of their redemption arc. Last year they fell short of winning the national championship. This would be national championship number 6 if they were to win it. I mean, they lost to Penn State in the only meeting between the two teams. They're not playing at the Bob, though. However, I just got to give the edge to Nebraska. When Nebraska is down and then they take the lead, that is when Nebraska is scary. Nebraska, I feel, in my opinion, is kind of like Patrick Mahomes with the ball late in the quarter. Like when they're deep late to the set and they're ahead, they're most likely not going to give up that set. I know they had the little late set blunder. Okay, maybe not blunder, but they kind of had the late set loss against Penn State in set 4 in the lone meeting between these two teams. But I think for Nebraska, this is their moment to shine. I think they kind of get their lick back after they fell to Penn State, because these two teams, they're the top dogs of the Big Ten. It's just that Penn State had the tiebreaker, but I digress. So, yeah, I got Nebraska winning a thriller against Penn State. Do not be surprised if it goes 5 sets. And then my national championship would be Nebraska versus Pitt. Look, Penn State, or not Penn State. Look, Pitt deserves a lot of credit. If they get this far, there's no doubt in my mind they deserve to be in the national championship. I think they have a great senior class, obviously, with Valeria Vasquez-Gomez and Rachel Fairbanks to lead them. Olivia Babcock has stepped up. Tori Stafford has stepped up. Bree Kelly is also stepped up in the middle. If they can get Bree Kelly going in the middle, then Pitt will be so tough to beat. Nebraska, on the other hand, I've already mentioned Bergen Raleigh has been fantastic at the center position. Harper Murray, with all that she's been through, because I never really talk about this, but she kind of got a little bit in trouble in the offseason. I'm just going to leave it at that. But with how much she's been through, this would be the perfect ending to what was a very stressful and strenuous season. Lexi Rodriguez has been fantastic at the libero position. I'm going to call it now. She surpasses Justine Wong-Orantes in terms of all-time digs at Nebraska. Look, I like the matchup between both these teams. Both these teams are practically evenly matched. But you know what? I just got to go with Nebraska on this one. I would love to see Pitt win it. I really want to see Pitt one day win it, but I just think Nebraska, this is their moment, just because I think championship number 6 will go for them just because they play such serious and aggressive volleyball. It's like when they're down, they're never really out. And once they catch up to you and they snatch that lead, they will not let go of it. They are the type of team that will vice grip that lead to the point where it turns purple and whatnot. So I got Nebraska still winning it. I had Nebraska winning the national championship in terms of my bracket that I posted on X at @set_point.ie. You definitely want to check that out. I had a bunch of blunders, which saw me picking Texas to make it to the Final Four. That backfired. It also saw me pick Stanford to make it to the Final Four. That backfired. So, yeah, I still have Nebraska Pitt in the national championship, but I have Pitt. I'm still going to go with Nebraska winning it all. I think the Huskers are just a cut above the rest, and I think that national championship pedigree experience is going to really do them wonders if they make said national championship. Now, let's say Penn State and Louisville make the national championship. Who would win that one? Let's go with that scenario. I might have to give the edge to Penn State in this one. I think Penn State, if they were to face Louisville, as great as it is to see Louisville have home court advantage and for Louisville to possibly be the first team since UCLA back in the 80s or 90s to win a national championship on their home floor, I just think that Penn State has just been a cut above the rest, and I feel they just they're just so amazing and incredible this season, especially fighting for Katie Schumacher-Colley. And then let's say it's Louisville, Nebraska. If it's Louisville, Nebraska, I got Nebraska winning it, no doubt about it. I feel even though Kelly Busboom Kelly or Yeah. Yeah. Not. Yeah. Even though Busboom Kelly is a former disciple of John Cook, I just feel that Nebraska is just going to come really prepared. And heck, I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska fans made the trip down to said KFC Yum Center. But I think for Louisville, I just think they will fall short, in my opinion. I hate to say that about them just because they are hosting, and it would really be awesome if they were to win the national championship on their home floor. But I just think on the other side of that bracket is going to be two monsters in Penn State and Nebraska. And I just think that it's going to be – I just think it's just going to be too much for them. So I got Penn State winning if Louisville faces them. I've got Nebraska beating Louisville if they face them. So – yeah, and then if it boils down to Pitt versus Penn State, this might be just like Danny Busboom Kelly. So yeah, Danny Busboom Kelly is a disciple of John Cook. But as much as I'd like to see Louisville win it all on their home floor, I just got Nebraska or Pitt if they were to meet either of those two. And then Penn State versus Pitt, it would basically be the equivalent of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would probably have Pitt over Penn State in a barn burner. I just hope we get barn burners all together because we got a 5-setter in the NAIA Women's Volleyball Championship, a 5-setter in the NCAA Division II Championship, a 5-setter in the NCAA Division III Championship, and a 5-setter in the 3C2A National Championship. Heck, I would go as far as to say that there could be a 5-setter, or there might have been a 5-setter in terms of NJC women's volleyball. I know in Division III there was no 5-setter, but you know what? I'm going to look that up in real time. But in terms of like the 4-year volleyball championships, we could get 5-set matches from NAIA, NCAA Division III, NCAA Division II, and NCAA Division I. And I guess we won't. And I'm including 3C2A, but it is what it is. So yeah, and unlike football, there is NJCAA Division II volleyball. So yeah, this is basically junior college and whatnot. But yeah, I do want to see what happened in terms of the tournament and whatnot. But it doesn't look like anything has happened. Yeah, I'll look that up a little bit later, but yeah, the scores aren't doing me any justice, which really sucks. But yeah, but in terms of like 4-year volleyball, we've gotten 5-set matches in the 3 national championships, being NCAA Division II, Division III, and NAIA. Let's make it 4 for 4 and get ourselves a 5-set NCAA Division I women's volleyball championship. So let's see it. Let's see it happen. I want to see a 5-setter. That's the best words to hear in terms of a national championship match in volleyball. 5 sets or 5th set. All right, but that is that right there for the preview of that whole little dealie. And that's basically going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Before I sign off, I do want to say it really sucks that I'm not going to be attending the AVCA convention. Once again, this is just another case of I'm just too busy. I've got my other part-time job and holidays are coming up. I just can't make it to the AVCA convention, which really sucks. I would like to meet all of y'all in person and maybe learn from some of the best to how to keep Set Point growing. And it would be pretty cool to do a StreamYard episode live at the AVCA convention. But unfortunately, it's just not meant to be, and I'm just going to have to wait till next year. And so on and so forth. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for tuning in, despite everything that happened with StreamYard just fumbling the bag. I will do a Set Point Extra Points episode on Thursday after the national semifinal. So hopefully it won't be too late, and hopefully I can bring you all some more action and the recap of the national semifinals, and definitely interact. I would like for you all to interact in the chat room and just talk about why Nebraska should have won or shouldn't have won, or Penn State should have won or shouldn't have won, Pitt and Louisville, and why Louisville deserves lots of credit for making it all the way to the semifinals where they're hosting this whole thing. Definitely tell everybody about Set Point. I mean, I'm just a one-man band man who tries his hardest to provide volleyball content to try to be the best he could possibly be. So with that being said, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I will see you all on Thursday for an episode of Set Point Extra Points, where I'll be recapping the NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I National Semifinals. Have yourself a great rest of the week. And if I don't see you on Thursday, I'll see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Enjoy the volleyball action, because this is the last week of volleyball in the calendar year before we get ready for 2025, where we've got LOVB, the Pro Volleyball Federation, and so on and so forth. But have a great week, everybody, and enjoy. And for those going up to Louisville and checking out the KFC Yum Center and the National Semifinals and Championship, be safe and enjoy. Peace!